Hi everyone, my name is Christina. I'm a sweatshop hot yoga studio in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. And today I'm going to guide you through a 30-minute live flow yoga class. And what that means is we're going to take it nice and slow. We're not going to push ourselves too hard today, but I really encourage you to breathe deeply throughout some of the poses that we'll be holding. And if in doubt, always return to that breath. We're going to do a few strength poses today, and we'll do a little bit of balancing at the end. So with that, I'll meet you on your mats. Let's get started. We're gonna start, you can start kind of towards the middle of your mat here, and we're gonna start out in mountain pose. In mountain pose, and maybe a couple of things before we get too far down the road, but we're going to be doing, it's a flow class, so we're not gonna push ourselves too hard. We're going to take quite a bit of time to really breathe in the poses that we're doing, and we'll just take it nice and easy. This should be pretty relaxing, but I promise we'll get the blood flowing a little bit. We'll do a little bit of strength type stuff, and we'll do a tiny bit of balance at the end too. So with that, we'll start in mountain pose. So nice and tall, palms facing forward, and we're going to take about 5 breaths in and out here. We're going to move into Garland Pose. So in Garland Pose, you can take your feet about as wide as the mat, a little bit wider than hip width distance if you don't have a mat. And then we're just going to squat down until our thighs meet our calves. You can put your hands in prayer position in front of you. And then with your elbows, they should be on the inside of your knees. You're just going to push your knees out a little bit. If this is difficult for you or tight in your hips, you can try rising onto your tippy toes. I feel that's a little challenging on the balance, so just find a space here that works for you. We'll move into hero pose. In hero pose, we're just going to sit with our legs underneath us, and we'll bring our left arm to our side, our right arm overhead for a side body stretch. And we'll switch sides, left arm overhead. From here, you can bring both arms overhead. You can keep your hands either apart or together, depending on how your shoulders are feeling. Tuck your chin into your chest, and we're just going to roll our backs gently forward until our arms and forehead touch the mat. From here, there's no real graceful way to get into this, but we're going to do a low lunge. So you can bring your right leg forward, knee bent at a 90-degree angle, and your left leg will be behind you. You can bring your left hand in between, or on the inside of your right foot, and then right arm up to the sky. You can bring your right hand down to the mat and we'll switch out our legs. So we'll do the same thing on our left side. So left knee is bent, hand can come to the inside of your foot and raise the left hand. All right. From here, you can come to a standing position and we're just going to bend our right knee a little bit while keeping our left leg straight. Your right hand is going to go on your mat. You can have it flat or maybe just touching with your fingertips depending on your flexibility. And we'll lift our left arm up. And we can switch sides, so bend your left knee, right leg straight. Remember to breathe here. Perfect. We're going to meet back up in mountain pose. So in mountain pose, your big toes can be touching heels maybe about an inch or so apart. And we're going to do a few sun salutations. If you were here next week, hopefully you remember how that works. But we will slow some of our first sun salutations down a little bit, and we'll take a couple of breaths in the poses. So arms overhead. And we can forward fold, hinging at the hips. Crown of your head here should be facing the ground. And we'll come to our halfway lift with our flat backs. From here, you can place your hands on your mat and step your feet back into plank position. I'm not going to make you hold it here. We can move right to low plank and then upward facing dog. So upward facing dog, thighs off of the mat if possible. And we'll push our hips back and up to downward facing dog. Travel to the top of your mat. We're going to halfway lift. And forward fold. And from here, we're going to move right into a chair position. So we'll make sure that we're pushing our hips back, knees not extending over the toes, arms overhead. And we can come back up to mountain pose. So that last round, we were taking about 5 breaths in most of those poses. This time we're going to move a little bit quicker. We'll take about 3 breaths. Arms overhead. And forward fold. Halfway lift with a flat back. We can move through this quickly, but place your hands on the mat, step your feet back into high to low plank, and upward facing dog. Push your hips back into downward facing dog, making sure that you're hinging at the hips here. We'll travel to the top of our mat for a halfway lift. And forward fold. When we come up, we'll move right into chair. And back into mountain pose. All right, last round of our sun salutations. So you can bring our arms overhead and we'll forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. And on our exhale, all in one movement, high to low plank or chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, travel to the top of your mat for a halfway lift. And exhale, forward fold. And on our inhale, up into our chair. Okay, we can come back to mountain pose. And from here, we're going to go through a little bit of a vinyasa flow. So we're going to bring our arms overhead again. Forward fold. Halfway lift. And chaturanga, high to low plank. Upward facing dog. And downward facing dog. From here, we're going to do a couple of little crunches. So we're going to bring our right leg up to the sky, and then you can round your back and shift your weight forward to bring your knee to your nose. And send the right leg back up. And then we'll bring our right leg between our hands at the front of the mat. And we'll move into warrior one. So for warrior one, you want to spin your heel down to the mat and then bring your body up with arms overhead. We'll take about 3 more breaths here. You can take your hands back to the mat and we'll move high to low plank. Upward facing dog. And downward facing dog. And we're going to repeat that same little series on our left side. So left leg lifts up to the sky. Bring your knee to your nose. And send that left leg back up. And then left foot between our hands. Pivot your right heel down. And arms up for warrior one. We can bring our hands back down to the mat, chaturanga, and then upward facing dog. And downward facing dog. We'll move to the top of our mat for a halfway lift. And forward fold. Right into our chair. We can come back up to mountain pose. We're going to do that same sequence. We're just going to build onto it a little bit here. So arms overhead. Forward fold. Halfway lift. Hands to the mat for high to low plank. And upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. So hips to the sky here, hinging at the hips with a flat back if possible. And we're going to repeat that same sequence, just adding one pose to each side. So right leg lifts up, round your back, knee to nose. Bring your right leg back up, and right foot between your hands. Warrior one. And we'll open up our arms and also open up our hips to the side of our mat for warrior two. From warrior two, we'll cartwheel our hands onto the mat and back down into chaturanga and upward facing dog. And downward facing dog. And we're going to repeat on the left side, left leg up, knee to nose, left leg back up, and between our hands for warrior one. And hips open up to the side for warrior two. Cartwheel your hands down to the mat and high to low plank. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Travel to the top of your mat for a halfway lift. Making sure that your back is nice and flat here. And forward fold. Right into chair pose. Mountain pose. All right, we'll go through that flow one more time, and we're just going to add one movement on each side, and we'll move through it a little bit quicker this time. So arms overhead, forward fold, halfway lift with a flat back, all in one motion, high to low plank, and then upward facing dog. And downward facing dog. We'll lift our right leg up, knee to nose, and right leg back up between our hands for warrior one. Hips open up to the side for warrior two. From here, we'll move into extended side angle. So you can bring your right hand inside of your right foot with your knee maybe touching your tricep or your shoulder. And left arm comes up for a twist. Back to warrior two. Hands to the mat for chaturanga. Upward facing dog. And downward facing dog. One last time, we're going to do that same sequence on our left side. So left leg up, knee to nose, and left leg up between our hands for warrior one. Hips open up to the side for warrior two. And extended side angle with our left hand inside of our left foot. Right arm lifts up. And back into warrior two. Cartwheel your hands down to the mat for our last chaturanga of the day. Upward facing dog. And downward facing dog. Come to the top of your mat for a halfway lift. And forward fold. And hips sit nice and low for our chair. and back up to mountain pose. All right, we're going to work on our balance just a little bit today. So we're going to practice tree pose. We can ground through the left leg, maybe pull that left kneecap up to help really ground that leg. And your right foot can come to either the inside of your calf or to the inside of your thigh. If you'd like, you can hold your ankle here, maybe bring one hand to the chest, maybe even two hands to the chest. Find a point maybe on the wall in front of you, just to focus as we breathe here. And slowly release your right leg down. You guys looked really strong there. Awesome job. One more time on the other side. So right leg nice and strong. Left foot can come to the inside of your shin or maybe even the inside of your thigh. Just make sure not to push it on your knee and don't create pressure there. So inside of our thigh. Maybe keep one hand on the ankle for balance. And if you're able to, bring one hand to your heart. Maybe try two hands. And we'll take a few breaths here. Okay. From here, we'll move into goddess pose. So you can take a nice wide stance with your toes pointing maybe like 45 degrees out. And then we're just going to bend down. Your hands can be resting on your knees. We're going to take a little bit of a twist here. So just drop your right shoulder. And as you do this, you can push your knees out to the side to get a stretch in your inner thighs. So dropping your right shoulder, extending the gaze up if that feels comfortable for you. And we'll switch sides, so drop that left shoulder, maybe gaze up to the right. And from here, we're going to come into a seated position. So legs can be long in front of us. We're going to do a seated twist. We'll keep our left leg long and bring our right foot to the outside of that knee. If you're able to, you can also bend that left leg. Place your left hand behind you. Place your right arm behind you and lift your left arm up to grab your knee for a nice twist in your lower back. We'll gently unwind, placing our right leg nice and straight, left foot on the outside of that knee. Our left hand now comes behind us, right arm up, and kind of hooks around that left knee to grab the right knee. And maybe looking over your left shoulder. From here, we'll do just a simple forward fold. So you can scooch around and make sure that you're kind of on your bones of your bum. So it might take a couple shifts there to get that position right. And we're going to try to tilt our hips forward and keep a straight back. This is a little challenging if you have tight hamstrings or hips. I have very tight hamstrings. So just go as far as what feels comfortable for you. And in our forward fold, we'll just take a couple of breaths here. And slowly come up. We're going to gently roll back one vertebrae at a time, all the way into a laying position for Savasana. So here I like to just let your feet fall to wherever feels comfortable for them. Palms can be facing up. We'll take one breath together. Deep inhale. And exhale. And settle back into your regular breathing as you thank yourself for showing up today and practicing. And from our resting Savasana, we can gently come up to a seated position, whatever feels best for you. I just wanted to thank everyone for joining me today. We'll see you next time. Bye.